when we come back to meditation, what we are often saying is, your circumstances, your personality, your stuff is not you. But until you own it, you can't use it. So contrary to most meditation practices, the ownership of the shadow is by taking ownership, by being part of it, it becoming part of you, not disowning it, not trying to be spiritually superior. In this process of awakening through cleaning up your life, you don't go above it, you go into it. I want to let you all know about, we're having a memorial for Jim Markoff, who's a longtime member here, and it's going to be on Friday at 4 o'clock. He's a very impressive person. If you knew him, and if you didn't know him, you missed something. I think that's one of the things about a church that's really potent, which is that we come here quite often, we talk about it as though we come here for spiritual education or in spiritual support or something like that. But one of the things you also get is you get to know people in a way that you probably want on the street, people that would not be in your work crowd, people that don't live in your neighborhood. And it is an impressive thing to sit with almost every single person. When you really listen to them, you go, huh, wow. And so we're celebrating Jim, but I also wanted to use that as encouragement to actually investigate who you're sitting next to. And it could be the person you're married to, but it could be anybody. Today I want to talk about the shadow, the shadow. This should be fun, huh? You know, in spiritual development, one of the things we've been talking about over the years, but especially in the last year, has been this idea that you are not the body and you're not your circumstances. You're the awareness that is inside. It feels like it's inside. It's actually more than the inside. You are the awareness, and that awareness is your true identity. And what is happening to you and around you and actually from you is not who you are, but this awareness, this core, the beingness of you. That's who you are. Now, we had a new members class yesterday, and somebody said, you know, there's so much going on. There's so much, I can't even say what it is, but it feels like the devil. And she goes, how does that square with the one presence, one power? I like to answer these questions. This was my response, and I'm going to hope you'll follow along with me and not be too critical. Pure awareness seems to be the basis of everything. In a materialistic point of view, consciousness or pure awareness seems to be an epiphenomenon. It comes out of enough neurons getting together, which is a process of enough molecules getting together, which is a process of matter turning into life. And what they have a really hard time describing or understanding is, where does consciousness come from? And it's called the hard problem of consciousness. If you take the opposing view, which is that consciousness is primary and the experience of matter happens within consciousness. As a matter of fact, the experience of anything happens within consciousness, so is not from your direct experience consciousness primary and what you experience secondary. You have to have a container to hold anything. And so to hold any of your experiences, you had to have consciousness. And that consciousness is so primary, it is part of everything you see. And a way of describing it is that pure consciousness is like the ocean. In just the ocean with stillness. And there is nothing in the ocean, in that stillness. It's just awareness itself. But interestingly, maybe deliberately or maybe by accident, the surface of the ocean is kicked up into waves. And each of those waves is still the ocean. But when it looks at another wave, it says, oh, I can see that wave now. I can see myself. Now I see it as an individual wave, whereas before there was just knowingness, but nothing to be known. And that wave leads to this idea of separateness. And the meta-myth, the overriding myth of the human condition is separateness. And then the fundamental thing we miss underneath it is the oneness. Our attention on the separateness, which the waves do really well, has precluded us remembering and abiding in the pure awareness. Now, when it comes to people, most of us have had a life growing up and being told, encouraged, or punished for certain traits. Like some people here are overly modest. I'm one of those people. Some people are particularly, let's say the opposite of that, willing to claim their goodness and proudness, and they're happy about who they are. Maybe to the point where it irritates some of us. This is the beginning of, and your parents either reinforced it or punished or whatever, but let's say we'll blame it all on your parents. Isn't that the best, really? All of us had parents and they all did it to us. But let's say we learned to identify as modest and or identify as proud. And when we look at the other, we do not see that within us is the opposite of what we're putting out there. So to the proud person, there is this sense of modesty, or maybe this sense of being a fake, or not really completely as good as we say. And on the other hand, we're denying who we really are. And we see the proud person over here, and we dislike that. And it can work for almost anything. The great thing about this process, which is the formation of the shadow is formed when we disown some part of ourselves. And we disown it so much that we have a hard time admitting it's us. We have that. And so the easiest way to know if you have any part of the shadow working in your life right now is, are you judgmental about anybody? Oh my gosh. What a way to start Sunday morning. Are you judgmental of anybody? It is your shadow that is being triggered. And the psychological process is really quite simple. When you disown something, we do not own it as you. When you have pushed it out of your consciousness far enough, you will see in another person, when you see that, you will be judgmental about it. And it is okay, because this is how you heal it also. But your first step is that you're judgmental, that you actually look at the other person and think there's something wrong with them for being that way. Anybody know what I'm talking about? So you project onto them. And the cure for this is really quite interesting, is that if you see it, it's kind of like if you smell it, it's yours. It's like if you see it, it's yours. If you see they are too arrogant, you look to this side to see where the arrogance is being denied. You probably aren't acting like that. You probably refuse to act like that. But you are that on the inside. And it wants to get out. It wants expression. It doesn't have to take over your life. The beautiful thing about becoming whole is no part really gets to take over your life. You begin to be the master of all your parts, but But that part that's been shoved away into the closet, that part wants expression. And it will get your attention saying, hey, I'm in here. You see that bully over there? I'm in you as the bully. And I need your forcefulness to come forward. It doesn't have to come forward in a destructive way like a bully, but it needs to come forth. And so when you see someone who's very forceful and you judge it, you are just, in essence, being denial of your own forcefulness. And forcefulness sounds like a bad thing to some of you who are in the process of denying that you have it, but it's a good thing also. In the right hands, everything is good. Or as the traditional Christians like to say, God didn't make no junk, right? You are whole when you integrate these parts back into you. When you can see in another the fault that you consider a fault, and then you investigate it deeply enough to find the gem that is waiting for you inside. And that process you can speed up by journaling, by investigating your dreams. Carl Jung, who coined the phrase, the shadow, said that the dream is one of the best ways to investigate the shadow because repressed feelings are in the dream. And it gives you a chance to look at it. Now, journaling has long been known to be one of the ways to find out what you thought you were, what you weren't aware of, and you start to write and you go, wow, where'd that come from? Right? That's another way of investigating the shadow. It's the part that you don't know is in there. And there's nothing wrong with having developed a shadow. Everybody has it. Almost every philosophy has it. Every group has it. It's just the part that we are not so that we can be who we think we should be. But to be whole, that needs to be incorporated into who you are. So there's a three-part process. It goes like this. You see it in yourself, and you don't like it. Or somebody in authority doesn't like it. Or you're put down by your friends because you were like it. And you then push it back out of your repertoire of how to act. You don't want to act that way. You feel bad when you act that way. You've learned that this is not good. And let's say it is asking for what you want. Maybe you asked for what you wanted in a certain way that was irritating. Maybe you asked for it when you couldn't get it. Maybe you asked for what you wanted and you were denied it and told, don't you ever ask for that again. However it came about. Then you see someone over here who's really willing to ask for what they want. You know these people? Aren't they really those jerks that just go, I want this, I want that, stand and give the teller a hard time, blah. You know those people? And since you don't recognize it in yourself, when you look at that person, you put a severe judgment on them. And you may have a superior sense of self. I'm better than that. Or you may have this idea that it angers you, or maybe it even frightens you to see someone act that way. But what it is doing, no matter which emotion exactly it brings up, it is reminding you that there is a forceful person within you that could be useful at some time. And to get to know it would be great. So if it works like this and you get the projection out here on this, and then you might generalize this to all people like that are bores, right? You may make it generalized. So that's the 1, 2, 3. You see it first in yourself, then you see it in another, and then you see it in a whole group of people. And the reversing of that can help you. Because we all long to be whole, and all parts of us long to be expressed. Now, I'm not talking about the murderer inside of you. That's an aberration of forcefulness. That is an aberration because it is twisted in so many ways. But I'm talking about the healthy use of your own voice or your own power. And when you see it in someone else, you then ask your question, why do I dislike seeing that? And that should point you right toward the unowned aspect of your own personality. It should point you, say, like, I don't want to be that strong, but sometimes I wish I could speak up, right? And over here, it's already in you. It's been waiting to come out, and the only way it knows to come out is put an emotion toward your recognition of it in another. So if you then withdraw into yourself, either through journaling, self-reflection, or some way of examining yourself, you may find that within you is this assertive self that has been your asset unused for way too long. And so then as you own it and you bring it in, you take it from like a third person thing, it's in me, and then you have a dialogue with it like a second person. Now, for years I did this type of psychological work called voice dialogue. And in voice dialogue, you are deliberately trying to find those disowned aspects of yourself and bring them in. And one of the great things you can do is talk to that sub-personality, as they would say. Talk to that sub-personality, get to know it, ask it, and it would say, I really want to help you in your life. You seem to be short of exactly what I have. And if you will let me, I will be your friend and help you. That's the way they talk. Even the ones that you think are so disgusting over here, that's the way they talk. They're waiting to be used by you. That's the second person. First person is instead of just talking to it, you step into it. And you become assertive. And you feel yourself as that person who is ready to take on the world, who is capable and competent in saying what needs to be said in public or in a private conversation, because you now own the power of your assertiveness. That is 1, 2, 3 of projection, and the ownership starting with an it becoming a dialogue, becoming you. Now, in spiritual work, when we do meditation, this comes back to the first part I was talking about. When we come back to meditation, what we are often saying is, your circumstances, your personality, your stuff is not you. But until you own it, you can't use it. So contrary to most meditation practices, the ownership of the shadow is by taking ownership, by being part of it, it becoming part of you, not disowning it, not trying to be spiritually superior. In this process of awakening through cleaning up your life, you don't go above it, you go into it. Now, one of the interesting things about a spiritual life is that when you're on the spiritual path, there are many ways to dissociate yourself from this reality, which is important for the realization that you're not all your stuff, but can be problematic when you come back to doing personality work. To dissociate from your personality doesn't allow you to use it, to be all you can be in this world. And so it takes wisdom. It may take a friend or a therapist to help you with this, to kind of go, well, you're a little off track here. You're just spiritual bypassing is the common phrase right now. So be wise as snakes. Know what you're doing when you're doing it. When you're in deep meditation, searching for that experience of oneness with all it is, you need to disassociate to some degree from all your bodily functions, from the fact that you have a car payment due in a week, all that stuff, and rest in the beingness of who you are. But to become fully functional as a human being, to know that at your base is fantastic. And while you know that at your base, you still go about the process of growing up and cleaning up your life. Ken Wilber is famous for saying something like this: the whole process of life is growing up, cleaning up, waking up, and showing up. And while we emphasize one of those, it should not be overlooked that your life is much more rich, full, when you have the ability to take what disturbs you and to own it and find the pearl of great price within it, so that you might be a whole person. And one of the beautiful things about this, you will be a better citizen too. Because the shadow side affects whole groups. Have you noticed that at this point in our nation's history, we don't see the good in other people, we see the shadow. We have huge judgments about them. And this nation will not actually heal until both sides are able to look at the other and go, so it must be here in me as well. And when you judge another personally, you add to the stock of dissatisfaction and anger in this world. And to be a good and spiritual person, you need to take your upsets, your projections back and clean them up by owning them and letting them support you in a better life. Let us pray. Let us pause for a moment. Is there someplace in your life, in recent history, somewhere, in the grocery store or gas station, while watching the television, or talking with someone, you made a judgment? Or you had a reaction to something they said, or how they said it. And that judgment is now made you more aware that you are separate waves on the ocean and not the ocean itself. But it can also make you aware that there is ownership to be done, healing to be done. To hold yourself in kindness and love as you look and see what you have despised in another might be hiding within you, waiting to help you. The whole world is working in your favor, but we often don't see it because we think we're right and the world is wrong. Let us take comfort that life is insistent, that we realize who we really are, both as spiritual beings and as whole and healthy human beings. And throughout this whole process, kindness to yourself and the practice of kindness to others is necessary. Let us see if we can work this wisely throughout the week, especially when under stress. And let us heal. And so it is. Amen. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.